Hello boys and girls, my name is Mrs. LeBron and I'm going to read chapter 19 of Summer According to Humphrey, and it's called The Winners After Dinner. Wait up, Garth! Sam was standing right in front of my cage. Garth hurried over. What's the matter? Your pitching arm's okay, isn't it? At that moment, Sam was using his pitching arm to scratch his other arm, and then his neck, and then his leg. I'm itching like crazy, he said, and I can't hardly stand it. Garth's jaw opened as he stared at Super Sam, who now could be called Scratching Sam. His skin was red and bumpy and blistery, and just watching Sam scratch made me itch. A small crowd gathered around Sam. I'll get the nurse, Richie said, and he took off running. Nurse Rose took one look at Sam. Poison ivy, she said. Come with me. Still scratching and looking completely miserable, Sam followed her to the infirmary where the sick kid stayed. We're toast, Garth told Ty. The Bobwhites are toast. I spent my day with Og and Lovey and Jake in the nature center, where kids came and went all day to take the nature test. Katie stayed in the center while Miss Mack was out on the trail, timing the groups for the trail reading event. It wasn't an easy day. Part of me wished I could be out there, free of my cage, watching the events and seeing how my friends were doing. The other part of me remembered that it was dangerous for a small creature to be out in the big woods. In fact, I was worried about Goldenrod and her friends every night. Still, I was anxious to know what was going on. I kept my eyes and ears open for any little tidbits to tell me how the competitions were going. The first thing I heard was from Garth when he came in to take the quiz. He looked miserable. Nurse Rose gave Sam some lotion, but she says he can't swim, Garth told me. He can try canoeing or softball, but I don't see how he can hit a home run when he's scratching all the time. The other teams say he shouldn't play volleyball because they don't want to touch the ball after he does, Garth sighed. I don't think he can do anything but scratch. I'm sorry, I told him, knowing that he and the Bobwhites had all counted on Sam to win for them. Maybe Sam's cabin mates should have put forth a little more effort, but I was too polite to say so, especially when Garth was upset. Saya was a lot more chipper than Garth when she stopped by after taking the nature quiz. Oh, Humphrey, she said, no one can tie knots like Abby. Though Simon did a good job, Maurice's ahead in archery, and we're going to the trail reading now. But even if the chickadees don't win, we'll still have a great time tomorrow night. I was glad she felt that way. The next night was when the winning group would sleep over in the haunted hollow. But how would the chickadees have a great time if they didn't get to go? Saya walked away, but quickly returned. Oh, I forgot, she said. Miranda was awesome in volleyball. So the Robins are still in the game. I'm so happy for her. I was happy for Miranda and Saya. Brad took the nature quiz, and I could tell he worked really hard at it. He practically chewed right through his pencil, which would be easy for a hamster, but not so easy for a human. When the quiz was over, he called for Gail to wait up. AJ, hit a home run, he said. Even if we don't win, it was close. I'm sure you did well on the nature quiz, Gail said, and my goofy brother was pretty good at tying knots. Who knew? Did you hear that hammering noise? He asked. Then they wandered off, talking about woodpeckers, which are interesting birds, but they make way too much noise for sensitive ears of a small, furry creature like me. Og, have you been keeping track? I asked, because I've been listening all day and I can't tell who's going to win. Can you? Og just sat there. I guess he was still trying to figure it out. When they are nervous, humans bite their fingernails or pace the floor. When I'm nervous, I hop on my wheel. By the way, I don't think biting your fingers or paws is a good idea. So I gave my old wheel a good spin later in the day. When we were back in the rec room, the counselors had gathered there with clipboards and all kinds of papers. They were going to decide who would spend the night in Haunted Hollow, and they were deciding it right in front of me. No doubt about it, the Bobwhites would have won if Sam didn't have poison ivy, Aldo said, staring at the clipboard. I feel for them, Hap Holloway agreed. It was a bad piece of luck. Still, the others had been slacking off. Mrs. Wright observed, I think they relied too much on Sam and their scores just don't add up. The others agree with Mrs. Wright, and amazingly, so did I. Really, she wasn't so bad. if she'd just lose that whistle. Katie rummaged through her papers and chuckled. I've never seen anyone tie knots like Abby. She racked up points for the chickadees on that one. And on the trail reading, and Marisa won archery. Miss Mac nodded, but the Robins had a lot of heart, and Miranda and Gail got second in canoeing, and Lindsay was a big surprise with her volleyball serves. Aldo studied his clipboard some more. AJ and Simon took the top spots in swimming, and Brad won the canoeing and scored very close to Saya on the nature quiz. I think the Blue Jays scores are the highest. Hap Holloway was busily adding up the scores. Yep, he said, it's the Blue Jays. Katie shook her head. I guess there'll be a lot of disappointed kids, especially when they don't get to go to Haunted Hollow. Not necessarily, Hap said. No, I don't think they'll be disappointed tomorrow night, thanks to Saya. I had no idea what Hap was talking about. I was worried about my friends being disappointed when Aldo brought Og and me to the dining hall that night so we could hear the results. First, Hap congratulated everyone on being great campers. Then he announced the rankings. There was a lot of cheering when he said that the Robins came in third. There was more cheering when Hap said that the Bobwhites and Chickadees tied for second. When the room quieted down, Hap said, and the first place winners of the winners of this year's Clash of the Cabins competition, the Blue Jays! Blue Jays rule! AJ and his cabin mates chanted, Blue Jays rule! A Happy squeaked along. After the cheering ended, Hap continued, I have to recognize one camper as being one of the most outstanding athletes I've ever seen at the camp. Hap paused. That's Sam Gorman. Today's scores might have turned out a little differently if it weren't for that poison ivy. So let's give Sam a big Happy Hollow cheer. Everybody cheered, even Og and me. Sam stood up and waved, but I still felt itchy just looking at him. And wonder of wonders, afterward the campers all mingled and were friendly again. A few looked disappointed, but Abby, Miranda, and Saya chatted away as if nothing had ever happened. And I was happy not to see Brad and Richie. I was happy to see that Brad and Richie were hanging out with Noah. Humans are pretty amazing. I was sorry Goldenrod didn't know how very, very, very nice they can be. That night, I slept in the cabin shared by Miss Mac, Katie, and Mrs. Wright. Believe it or not, she took off her whistle before she went to bed, and she placed it right under her pillow. Still, it was a quiet night, and everyone slept well. Everyone except me. Because all I could think of that night was what would happen the next night. The night the Blue Jays would go to the Haunted Hollow. Note to self, winning is good, but not winning isn't as bad as most humans imagine. Thanks for listening.